Okay, picture this. It's late at night, the atmosphere is totally buzzing after an intense NBA Finals game at Madison Square Garden, and a massive press gaggle forms. What happens next is this impromptu, rapid-fire session where Donald Trump fluidly bounces from analyzing basketball plays to detailing high-stakes global diplomacy and military blockades. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to decode the fascinating, completely unstructured nature of this raw source material. We're going to take a seemingly chaotic stream of consciousness and organize it so we can really understand the key messages being delivered.
To keep us from getting total cognitive whiplash from the sheer variety of topics covered in just a few minutes, we've broken his statements down into 4 distinct themes. 1. Courtside to culture wars. 2. Rebuilding the Capitol. 3. Economic claims and infrastructure. And 4. The global stage. Let's dive right in.
Part 1, Courtside to Culture Wars, Basketball and Beyond. So, we're starting with the immediate setting, right? A Knicks versus Spurs NBA Finals game hosted by Jim Dolan in New York. Let's see how sports seamlessly transitioned into broader culture wars right there on the tarmac. What's genuinely fascinating here is just how enthusiastically he reviewed the game's specifics before sharing his overarching views on the league itself. He was asked directly for his sports analysis, and, well, he delivered. He predicted Knicks in 5 and praised players like Jalen Brunson, actually calling him Mr. Clutch. But, it didn't stop at the box score. He noted that the gameplay is getting rougher and explicitly stated that this physical defense is a really good thing for the sport. And then when pressed on the politics of the NBA and recent criticisms, he acknowledged that the league is, in his words, a little left-wing, but ultimately praised it as great entertainment. It's this perfect example of blending immediate sports commentary with broader social observations. Still on the NBA, a reporter brought up ESPN commentator Stephen A. Smith's recent criticisms. And instead of engaging with the sports logic, he utilized a direct attack on Smith's intelligence. He stated you need a high IQ to run for president and doubted that Smith possesses it. This really highlights a specific rhetorical strategy, pivoting from a sports media hypothetical directly into an ad hominem challenge regarding presidential aptitude. Moving to Part 2, Rebuilding the Capitol, Monuments and Metrics. Shifting from the court to the Capitol, Trump heavily emphasized his administration's efforts to beautify and secure Washington, D.C. ahead of America's 250th anniversary. He painted a seriously stark contrast regarding D.C.'s infrastructure. He described the previous state as a crime haven with broken fountains and wire fences everywhere. Contrast that with his description of the current state: 22 out of 22 fountains now working, wire fences taken down, and the reflecting pool sandblasted clean. He even shared a highly specific anecdote about replacing the grass, noting that grass has a life just like a human being, and claiming the old grass hadn't been changed in literally 100 years. He framed this entire cleanup as setting a blueprint for mayors of large metro areas everywhere. To back up that physical transformation, he pointed to specific, dramatic, numerical drops in crime. He attributed a 95% drop in crime in D.C. to his administration's cooperation with the National Guard and local police, saying they did exactly as asked. He also rattled off massive claim drops for other cities too, 77% in New Orleans and 74% in Memphis, using these metrics to reinforce his narrative of a restored, safe America. But he wasn't just looking backward at what was fixed, he was looking forward. He framed several massive impending projects as an inspiration for the future of American cities. He teased a new promenade that's going to bridge over 2 highways behind the Lincoln Memorial to restore its original intended waterfront view. He also mysteriously touted upcoming projects he referred to as the Ark and the Ballroom, claiming the combination of these 2 will be the greatest projects of them all. All right, Part 3, Economic Claims and Infrastructure. Let's see how this builds into his domestic economic narrative. From beautifying the Capitol, the gaggle shifted seamlessly into highlighting record-breaking financial figures and localized infrastructure battles. He pointed out this number, 73. He stated that there have been 73 new stock market highs across various exchanges. What's absolutely crucial to take away from this is his framing. He emphasized that this record was achieved in just his short 1.5 years, presenting it as an unprecedented economic victory, which was especially notable to him because it's occurring during an ongoing military conflict. Then he dropped another massive figure, $18 trillion. He claimed this astronomical amount was invested in the United States in just 11 months. To really make this number land, he directly contrasted it with the previous administration, asserting they brought in less than $1 trillion over a full 4-year term. So, whether discussing stock highs or corporate investments, the strategy here is clearly using overwhelming scale to project economic dominance. Stepping away from the macro economy for a second, a very specific, localized conflict emerged regarding the Constitution pipeline. He described a breakdown in negotiations with the governor of New York. According to the source, Pennsylvania has the natural gas, but New York blocked the pipeline from crossing its territory into New England. And as a consequence of that, he claimed New England citizens are paying some of the highest energy prices in the world. In retaliation for New York breaking the pipeline deal, he announced he's withdrawing a promise to provide windmills to the state. It's a really fascinating look at how regional infrastructure disputes are leveraged politically, directly impacting the energy prices everyday citizens pay. Before leaving domestic issues completely, he briefly touched on two other major hurdles. First, transit infrastructure, noting efforts to get the massive Penn Station rail project in New York approved. Second, he addressed a reporter's question about immigration policy, expressing deep frustration over a federal judge striking down a proposed $100,000 fee for H-1B visas. He used this to claim that the court system is giving us a hard time and actually hurting the country, which really showcases his ongoing friction with the judicial branch over executive actions.
Which brings us to part 4, the global stage, Middle East negotiations. We now execute a pretty sharp thematic whiplash, transitioning straight from New York transit stations and visa fees to high-stakes military action and nuclear diplomacy in the Middle East.
He laid out a really fascinating sequence for his progression of leverage against Iran. He started by confirming that B-2 bombers executed a big job as an initial thrust, but then he emphasized that step 2, 100% economic blockade stopping all oil and income, proved much stronger and way more effective than spending weeks bombing, which he noted would just result in a lot of people getting killed. Because of this crippling economic pressure, he projected an impending deal, claiming a treaty could be signed in 2 to 3 days, or even in 1 hour. Once signed, the critical Strait of Hormuz would open up immediately. He sharply contrasted his administration's absolute blockade strategy with what he described as the previous administration's approach. He framed his policy as the road to absolutely no nuclear weapon. In direct opposition, he characterized the Biden administration's JCPOA as an absolutely failed agreement that provided a road to a nuclear weapon, alleging that previous leadership was totally okay with Iran obtaining one. Again, we see this use of stark binary contrasts to explain incredibly complex geopolitical shifts. The diplomatic claims definitely extended beyond Iran, too. He claimed credit for brokering a pause in regional violence involving Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu, stating that after going back and forth, both sides agreed, through me, to stop. Furthermore, when questioned about tapping the strategic petroleum reserve, he entirely dismissed the need. He asserted that global gas prices are actually lower now during an active military conflict than under the Biden administration, largely because oil is still successfully moving out of the strait despite all the ongoing tensions. Right in the middle of these massive geopolitical claims, the press gaggle was hit with breaking news. A reporter asked about a developing New York Times report regarding a U.S. Army Apache helicopter that had just gone down near the Strait of Hormuz. He provided a crucial, immediate update right from the tarmac. He confirmed the safety of the crew, stating multiple times that the pilots were fine and safely rescued, with a full report coming the very next day. This ended the factual updates of the gaggle on a deeply relieving note regarding American service members. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. In this explainer, we've organized the chaos for you. But think about the original format for a second. When a leader jumps from breaking down the NBA Finals to threatening New York's governor over windmills to declaring a 100% military blockade in the Middle East, all in a single unscripted breath on a tarmac, how does that impact our ability to digest the news? Does the blending of sports, infrastructure, and nuclear war desensitize us? Or does it actually give us a uniquely transparent window into a leader's prioritizing process? It's something you really have to consider the next time you watch a raw press gaggle unfold. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and we'll catch you on the next explainer.